Welcome to Mini Maths at Virtual School Victoria. Today we have some math mysteries to solve, and your job is to use your math skills to help us identify who's telling the truth. Let's look at our first problem. It's about birdhouses and two characters who are telling a story about the birdhouses. Pause the video. See if you can work out who is telling the truth. Well, let's see if you came up with the important information in the story. And here are the important ideas. 19 purple birdhouses, 7 yellow ones, 26 altogether, and there were 11 more. Mrs. Canary's story was about the way that the birdhouses were arranged in the yard. Now, when you look at the critical information, you could see that Mrs. Robin's story stacks up pretty well until she says there are 11 more purple houses. When you look at the difference between 19 and 7, there are 12 more purple houses. When we look at Mrs. Canary's description of the birdhouses in her backyard, her numbers add up correctly. So we can say that Mrs. Canary is the character who's telling the truth. Our next problem is about a party. Pause the video, look at the information, decide who's telling the truth. Let's look at the numbers in Nina's story. She needed 100 napkins. When you see how she's gathered 30 and 25, and she had to buy a certain number of napkins to make it to 100. Whereas Ellie needed to add a certain number of balloons to make it 100 for her. Let's have a look how these numbers stack up. When we look at Nina's numbers, her total is 110, so she's calculated to get 10 more napkins. Where we look at Ellie's numbers, we see that 7 and 18 is 25, 25 is 50, and 50 is 100. So on the numbers we have there, Ellie is the one who is the most accurate. Our next problem involves a pot of gold. Let's see if we can resize that a bit better. Okay, now pause the video and decide who's telling the truth. If you look at a third and a fifth, they're the mathematical ideas that are in this problem. And again, we have a third and 2 sixths. Let's have a look how the maths works. When you look at Larry's decision to keep the 1/5, you can see that 1/5 is less gold than the 1/3. When you look at Daisy's sharing, when you look at 2 6, that is the same as 1/3. So it's fair to say that Daisy's the most accurate information there. Our last problem for today has got to do with more fractions. Pause the video to see if you can figure out who's telling the truth. When we look at 3/4, we know that 3/4 and 0.75 or 75% match. The explanation for that is a story for another day, but if you want to check it, take a calculator, take 3, divide it by 4, press the equal sign, and the calculator will come up with 0.75. When we look at Silvio's story, he's made the mistake of 1/4 being the same as 0.4. Now 0.4 is 4/10 or 2/5. So they are not equivalent fractions. In this example, its trans story is more accurate. Congratulations if you're able to help me find out who was telling the truth. Now, what we've done today is use some problem-solving strategies. The most important rule for problem solving that should be written here but isn't is start with what you know. So think about the problem, start with what you know. Then you read the problem. Did you do that? As you read the problem, pick out the most important information to help you solve it. Then choose some strategies or a strategy that will give you the result that you would expect. Follow the steps to solve the problem. Check your answers. Lots of ways. You can do it on a calculator. You can compare it with another situation. You can ask someone who's good at maths. If it all adds up and works out correct, terrific. If not, try the problem-solving strategy again, but with maybe something slightly different. Now, what we did today in identifying who's telling the truth, we identified the problems that were written in words. We found the numbers that would help us solve it. We decided on strategies. We tested out the strategies. We checked our answers. We compared 2 answers, decided which answer was more accurate. And if you're really good at maths, you can always explain to somebody else how you solve the problem. Thank you so much for listening today. We are going to finish with this lovely little thank you graphic. And all of these are mathematical symbols or expressions. And as you can see, they spell out thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll see you next time.